What's up, guys? Welcome to another special episode of the FBU podcast. Remember, this year I am taking a really cool angle on the podcast and once a month doing an interview with an SPF member. SPF is the name of my mastermind group, and I have tons of gyms. And the hardest thing for me to do was only do 12 of these this year and needed to pick one gym owner that's kicking ass and taking names. And I definitely couldn't have had that list of 12 without the guy I'm talking to you today. And that is TJ Lopez from AMP. He is out, and we have a bunch of gyms actually that have the name AMP. So I got to be specific. One and only TJ Lopez, who I've mentioned in many other podcasts, and I've talked about him before. He was our 2025 Gym Owner of the Year award, put up some monster numbers last year and continuing with some big ones over the course of this year too. So super excited to have TJ on the podcast. TJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate you having me on. And yeah, it's been a long time coming before.
Awesome, brother. Give everyone like a little bit of just 35,000 foot view of you and name of your gym, where you're at, and all of that.
Cool. Yeah, my name's TJ. My gym's called AMP. AMP stands for Athletic Movement Protocol. Started the business back in 2013 out of a converted bathroom inside of a baseball facility. So prior to that, I was working with a lot of pro athletes, baseball players. CC Sabathia was my main client, kind of my claim to fame in the sports performance world. And back then when I started the business, I was essentially started from zero and was working with, mainly baseball players, not even mainly athletes, like specifically college baseball players. So I had a very much of a specific niche that I was working with. But prior to opening the gym, I had always followed, people like you, Vince, people like Alan Cosgrove, people that, Tom Timmer, that were talking about these kind of like hybrid gyms of, adults and athletes. And the thing that about my business was, especially that's why I gave the name in the beginning, because it was very athlete based. And I think it was a little scary. And it was probably a little bit more of my opinion of my own business, where it really took a long time for me to really build my adult programs. Back in 2013, I was in a little space by myself, grew the team, grew the business, kind of opened up inside of another baseball facility and then another baseball facility. And I just kept kind of like finding my way into like bigger spaces until I finally signed my own lease back in, now it must have been 2016, 2017. Since then, we've expanded that original location another 2 times. So we're in 7,500 square feet in Syosset, and I have a second location going back to my roots inside of a baseball facility. And we're growing that business now way faster than I grew my original business. And the hopes is that we're going to be opening up an adult program. We have a few adult clients there. We're going to be opening up an adult program this summer in that location. And location number 3 is hopefully right around the corner. We're in talks with a new location. It's actually 5 minutes from my house. 2 of these locations. One's about 30 minutes. The other one's about 50 minutes from my house. So it'd be nice to have one right in my backyard. And, no announcements yet, but we're working toward getting that third location. So it is a tremendously different business over the last 13 years. And my frustrations of not being able to get away from training athletes only without being a part of the SPF mastermind, without being a part of, under your tutelage and the rest of the group, there's no way I'd be where I am today in a business that I'm just doing my finalizing my 2025 numbers. And it looks like our adult fitness is about 62% of our total revenue in our main location, and about 50% of our total revenue overall. That was the thing that, back in probably 2018, 2019, we would battle on, what am I going to focus on? But, without the growth of the adult program, we just wouldn't be where we are today. And that's, it's a huge part of the success of the last 5 years. For sure.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording, about how many gyms out there are doing, the split business, that they train athletes and they train adults. And the typical pattern is just the pattern I started with and the pattern you started with is I'm an athlete guy, I'm a sports performance guy. And then my season was football, your season was baseball, right? And all of a sudden we finish our busy season, we stack a bunch of cash, we finish our busy season, and all of a sudden we're like, the amount of emotional roller coaster that I went on, that I know you've gone on, an athlete only gym is tough. It's really hard. I can go on a limb and say there there are almost none athlete only facilities that sleep well at night, that don't
Well,
have that
even
roller
they,
coaster of emotion.
yeah, like the ones we could pick out, like Eric Cressy, right? Like there's a guy that I follow.
Yeah, and I think
But even him, they
being an
used to
adult.
shut
Yeah.
the business down. Like certain times of the year, they actually shut the business down so they would save costs. They don't do that anymore. And yes, they have added adults, I think, in both of their locations. But I would say it's impossible. It's impossible to have longevity. A lot of the places that I compete against that are kind of like athlete only, even though they might have a small adult program, the owner usually is not a full-time owner. They usually have another job. They're either a teacher, they're a physical therapist, and these are things that like I didn't know. It's like, oh, that guy can do it, I can do it. But this is my only thing. It's not like I have another career that this is like an afterthought. So I think there are a lot of places that just because, maybe the owner doesn't necessarily need to pull a lot out of business and it's not their only thing, they're able to keep that up for longer periods of time. But I would say that 3 to 5 years of launching to like that fifth year was when I really had to make a decision of what I was going to do, because it was not sustainable. It was essentially, exactly the 5-year mark was when I joined the group, and we had just lost a big contract. I was training CC, his career was coming to an end.
Let me stop you
So
there.
there was so much going on.
I want to paint this picture and kind of tell this whole story.
Yeah.
So you were training just athletes, right? And when did you join SPF? What year?
2018.
18. So you
Yeah.
came to an event, right? You came to one of our things at my gym. I think was AB at the one that you were at too?
AB, Joe Riggio.
God, that was like a heavy hitter. Yeah, that was a heavy hitter group. So you're basically, I used to have these events in my gym, and I'd bring like 10 guys into a room, and I would just tell them. At that point, it was just, here's what we do at Gabriel Fitness. And I was like, we do this and we do that. And it was like everything. But you were at that, and then you joined SPF. So I want to paint the picture, because it's easy for me to talk about TJ, you now, and how great everything is and how much money you're making, all of that. But that sometimes overwhelms people. Right. I think it's important to tell people where you were in 2018. So what were the challenges? Yeah. Were you listening to this?
That's where I was. Yeah, for sure.
So what were the challenges? What were the struggles that you were facing that made you decide, like, I need to get some help. I need to get some regular guidance in terms of coaching for what to do to grow my gym?
Well, again, I had seen your progress in the field, and essentially being mainly athlete only, former college football player like myself, opening up in your hometown. I saw that the similarities there, and just your ability to grow that adult program and market to the adult program. I had no marketing experience. I hadn't spent a dime on anything. I was just working off of referrals and grit, just going door to door to these organizations and whatnot. And not just that, I think, I was getting overwhelmed with just my own schedule and feeling like I had to do everything. I was not a good leader. I did not know how to, kind of, delineate the work. And, that was probably a big part of my frustration, was feeling like if I didn't do it, it didn't get done. And I think I would say, like, the low hanging fruit for me was understanding how to market and grow an adult program. I think that was the number one reason why I had joined, because I realized that the cyclicality of making money 3 months out of the year and then essentially giving it all back in losses for the next 3 months or 4 months, and then having a decent summer. It was just, the ups and downs were just too much. I knew I had a kid on the way. There were just so many things that made me realize that I needed help. And I had been seeking this type of help for a really long time. And I had other business coaches over the years that just never resonated with me. Part of it was that they didn't own gyms, and they were giving me this advice that was more for like virtual coaching and like online and maybe social media influencer type stuff.
Wake up at 4 o'clock, TJ.
Yes, exactly.
Lazy bastard.
Let's not specifically call out anybody individually, but I think that those are the types of things that, especially you from New Jersey, me from Long Island, very similar. And then just that following your career and seeing, you help other business owners just like myself, and it took me a long time to learn. Even once I got in the group, it took me a while to learn, but it was because I had built a business that was completely reliant upon myself. And again, I thought I was a good leader, but I wasn't. I thought that I was clear, and I thought that I was really good with even just with the numbers and whatnot, but I wasn't very good with predicting. I wasn't very good with setting good goals and communicating those goals to my team. And I wasn't holding anybody accountable, including myself. So those are the types of things that I saw, the lessons that you were giving on a regular basis. And 5-6 years later, we're still sitting here today, and I'm still learning every quarter.
I want to ask you more about the ups and downs. I know we were kind of mentioning it before, but I think this is important because I think not people go through this business of unpredictability, which causes a lot of stress. For you and me, it was the unpredictability of we had a bunch of business coming in, and then all of a sudden it dropped off the face of the planet. But there's also people that just train regular adults now too that have this, 1 week they get, 5 leads, and then the next 3 weeks they get 0 leads. Talk about the stress of the ups and downs of a business and what you were going through at the time, and kind of paint that picture of that stress that you were going through with the ups and the downs.
First and foremost, I never really had a sound foundation that I was working off of. I was renting from these other facilities that instability and, there was no certainty in what was going to happen tomorrow, whether that baseball facility was going to put up business, they were going to kick me out, or they were going to raise my rent. Like I remember I first started renting, my first sublease was supposedly it was a legitimate sublease. By month 5 or 6, their business wasn't doing well. So they came in and they tried to double my rent. So those types of things, I was very reactionary to stress. And I was, I was focusing way too much on the things I couldn't control. And that was really throwing me off. On top of that, the cyclicality of the business and my only source of leads were showing up every day and prospecting inside of the baseball facility, or emailing organizations, or going to organizations. So it was 100% my effort that would get somebody through the door. And then obviously I was doing all of the sales. I was doing all the programming, the coaching. So again, overwhelmed, not knowing how to really take a step back and get out of my business. I would think that first event that I had gone to was probably one of the first, if not the only, business event that I was able to kind of take that step back and look at my business without the distraction or without the stress of being inside of the business. And I think that was pretty eye-opening in itself, just being me leading the business for a couple of days and it not falling apart before I left, as I left. And yeah, there was no, the only way that I could predict was based on what I did the previous year. And because I was a smaller business, there wasn't a lot of data to go off. And, I didn't have a CRM. I didn't have a marketing plan. I wasn't paying for any type of advertising. So it was just flying by the seat of my pants in many, many ways. And yeah, that is just there's no stability in that plan, down to even being able to put myself on payroll. Like the first 18 months, 24 months of opening the business, I didn't put myself on payroll. All of those budgeting things that I've learned so much, from you and Mike Waldron about how to budget better, all of those things, the discipline has come with just repetition. And I just didn't have any of that for the first 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we've worked together so long, and there's so much that you've done and well, since that time. There's also plenty of mistakes that you've made too. And as we all have, right? But I think one of the things the big defining thing, I think, for you that really exploded your business was finding that balance of adults and athletes, right? You had, you were and way more than I was, you were a well-known, famous person. You haven't mentioned it because you're not a name dropper, but your CC Sabathia's personal training, which brought a ton of credibility to you in the Long Island area. So you had that, but you were what Cressy was to his area. You were like that in Long Island. And so you had this massive reputation, but we still had these uncertainties around revenue because of it. And it really wasn't until you went all in on the adult program. And when I say all in, you still train athletes, right? But you took that seriously. That's when we saw your business go to another level. So
Right.
let's kind of stop there. And I want you to talk about that process of getting that adult program from an athlete performance facility, getting that adult program going to the point where now, how many adult members do you have now?
In this one location, 100.
100, yeah, like
Yeah.
100, 185. And you were like for
Yeah.
a while hovering around like 30 and 40. And
Yeah.
you would come to the
20 to
meetings.
30.
Yeah, you would come to the meetings and say, still got 30, I still got 30. And I was like, come on, let's go. And now you're at 185 with they're paying like $400 or $500 a month. I mean, so it's a monster amount of recurring revenue that you're generating now. But there was a rut in a really long time where you were hovering of 20 to 30 adults.
Yes.
Talk about what was the thing that got you. It happened pretty quickly. There was an explosion for you.
100%. Yeah. It was the who, not how lesson. It was essentially, prior to COVID, I was essentially, piecing it together with a bunch of strength and conditioning coaches, sports performance coaches that really were working at AMP to train athletes. And the adult program was always an afterthought. It would be coach would come in Monday morning and then work the rest of the week, would work in the evenings. And then another coach would do Wednesday morning, another coach would do Friday morning. And I would be doing most of those days myself. So we were kind of like piecing it together with staff, which I would say was a big mistake. And it was never anybody's like full focus, including mine. We obviously did we did our best with our athletes. At times we were peaking out around 120, 130 athletes, and then it would go all the way down to 40. And then whenever we would go down to 40, that's when we would really focus on trying to build an adult program. And then the athletes would get in the way. And it was always kind of like a secondary goal. And it had to be at least one person's main goal. And that's when in 2020, I hired a former intern of mine. Her name is Hannah. And when I brought her on full time to only focus on the adult training, that's when I was able to switch back into having a mindset of building something as opposed to just like juggling too many things at once. And we were able to really double down on focus on getting referrals from our adult clients, on marketing, paying for marketing. We kind of launched the program with a challenge. We had been doing challenges, never really focused too much on it. In that challenge itself, I think we went from, it was post-COVID. So we were even, at times we had like 30 or 40 clients in the program. COVID brought us down to like 18. So we might've been around 25 at the time when we launched our first challenge. We went from 25 to 40 clients right then and there. And then we just grew. I'm looking at our numbers because I'm doing our document for this week. And we almost doubled every single year since COVID, except for this year, because we have grown so much, it's kind of hard to double. But we had doubled every year for 3 straight years in revenue and numbers. And it was all because I was able to hire one person that was the head of personal training of our adult program. And we really just focused on building that through, paid marketing was a big help, but also just referrals from our adult program and for our athletes, parents of our athletes. And that thing, especially with the cadence of having the 3 challenges every year, we're running more events now, but the 3 challenges per year, we do our summer shred, we do our New Year, New You, and our Fit for Fall. So those 3 throughout the year, and those 3, every time we do a challenge, we come out with more clients after the fact. So that's essentially like the basis and the foundation of our marketing calendar. And I've always found for myself, having deadlines and having an event-based marketing calendar has really helped us because it puts an urgency behind what you're doing. Hey, we're launching this program. We just launched it. It started today, our New Year, New You challenge. And those things have really been able to, every now for the last 2 years, 3 years, and really focus on getting the adults or the parents of our athletes into that program. And I would say that our growth has happened almost like in steps where we'd have 40 clients, we'd grow to 55. And then we'd keep those clients 55 to 60. And the next time we were in a challenge, we went from 60 to 80. And then we coast for a while. And then we go from 80 to 100. And it was like, with a very good, really focusing on retention, we've been able to just gradually increase by that 50 or 60 or 80% in numbers. And over that period of time, we've also been able to raise our prices. It's just been a lot of just consistency over the last 5 years and getting the ideas from the group and implementing in the next 90 days. Like that's been like the superpower for the last 6 years now since COVID.
You said who, not how, and I think that sums it up. What can you explain that to the listeners? What is who, not how?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I would be faced with a challenge, I would look at like, how am I going to get this? How can I figure this out? I have to figure out marketing. I have to figure out how to grow this adult program and make it something that I'm proud of that I can sell. How can I sell more people X? It was always, how do I do it? And the who, not how is essentially who. It's that, okay, this is my problem. Who can I either hire to fix this issue? Who can I, something like it, hire an agency, hiring a marketing agency so that I don't have to figure out Facebook ads myself. I was trying to figure out Facebook ads myself. Wasn't working. And then, just leveraging your team, leveraging, the relationships that you have in the community. How can I build my adult program? Well, I have, 120 athletes that all have two parents. So that's, right then and there, I have 250 leads that I'm not really marketing to. So all of these things that just switch and kind of like change your thought process to making it as like putting on more work on your plate, as opposed to like collaborating with someone and still putting in that same amount of effort, but getting double or three times the result. And, you have an idea, and it's always going to stay in that idea phase if you don't have someone on your team that can take an action on it.
Was that difficult for you to make that hire because at the time, like, it was a situation where we're only at 20 adults. You didn't need a full-time person to focus on the program. So it was kind of like an investment, I guess, you made into the business. What kind of made you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision, especially coming out of COVID, keep mentioning that. But I had just brought on my first kind of like full-time GM. And, that was an investment in itself to really help the stability of the business. And then on top of that, investing in a full-time employee when we really, like you said, we're piecing it together with what we had, right? If I wanted to keep it where it was, it would have been fine. But in order to really grow it, I knew that we had to make that investment. So yeah, I think it had a little bit to do with, just making a bet on myself and the right person. That was always a tough thing for me. We've always done a really good job hiring through our internship program. So having someone that I knew was going to be a good fit, when I wrote the job ad, I wrote it to Hannah. And I told her that after the fact that she took the job. She didn't apply until like week 3 or 4 in that job posting. In the beginning, I was very, I was interviewing and not coming up with a lot
of. You wrote it to her knowing that you knew
she
her
was the wrong fit. She was an intern. So she interned with us the summer prior, right? So in 2019, she had interned with us. And she had taken a job after graduating with another gym. And when I put this job ad out, I had, I didn't want to reach out to her because she was already working somewhere else. I didn't poach her from another gym. But I was like, and I remember telling, the rest of my team, I was like, the right person for this job is Hannah. And that's just, who I was writing it to in the, when I had on top of mind. And she wound up reaching out, applying, and the rest is history. So, that was, the first step is getting the right person. And then step 2 was really like putting myself now in an actual leadership role and putting myself into that CEO role to actually oversee the business and focus now on building something as opposed to just trying to hold it up. And I think that, that change really in just like that mindset shift allowed me to then actually test my abilities as a leader and test my abilities as a marketer. Because obviously we hired KISS Marketing, but that it doesn't start and end right there. You have to be involved. You have to build it. And you have to make sure that it's done the right way. And then that was that allowed me, taking that financial risk in the beginning, allowed me to then build a business that, the adult business still wasn't really profitable until about like a year or 2 later, because, we did hire Hannah full time, and then we had to hire another coach, as a part-time. And it was kind of just breaking even, but it was growing. And that was kind of like the letting me know, okay, we're on the right path. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. And that's one thing about me that, I guess I've always been consistent, and I've always kind of like kept my head down, and I've been patient, sometimes too patient. I think sometimes like I've just allowed things to take too long, but I always had faith in it. I always had confidence in it. And it only took a couple of years, but it did turn around and then, become the biggest part of our business that it is today.
Yeah, and I want to shine the light on where the business is, because it's really, really impressive. You won, and with going to get some pretty tough competition, some really good gym owners last year. You were one of 3 candidates of the SPF Gym Owner of the Year award, and you took the crown. You raised it. You raised the belt over your head, and I was really proud of you. I really love to watch that moment and see you so happy, and see you dress up as Stone Cold Steve Austin at the same time. It's funny.
It was awesome.
But just paint a picture of where the business is right now, from where's the revenue at, where's the locations at, like what is AMP today, where it's like before it was a stressed out guy trying to keep everything afloat, and now you're a legit CEO. You're a legitimate CEO of a large business and a large company. I know you're respected by people in your community as a business owner. You're respected in our group tremendously. People come to you for advice all the time. I've always said this to you, even when you were struggling, though, you were always very good at giving advice. You always were very insightful with the advice that you gave other business owners. I was always super impressed. I always said if I needed another business coach, I was going to hire TJ, because you do a really good job of that. But paint a picture. Things are going well for you right now. Paint a picture of where everything's at.
Awesome. Yeah, no, appreciate all that. And 2024 was essentially the year that I won business
year. So the year was 2024, but we announced it in 2020. Oh yeah, so
right. Beginning of 2025. It was a year ago.
Yeah, so it was a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that was probably the first year where everything started to come together for us as a business. Numbers wise, we did just over 1.5 million last year. In 2024, we did just over 1.5 million. And the previous year, we hadn't broken the $1 million mark. So we were just like $9,000 shy. We had just broken through that $1 million mark, and we had also added a second location, which was a huge help. And it was a profitable year for us. And this year, we're in our second year of our second location. We are just under 1.5 million in our main location. So we almost, kind of hit what we did as a business completely in one location. So we did 1.85 million this year. And, that's, if I had known that like 5 years ago as to like where I was today or where I was 5 years ago, I would have said probably not, even though I was an optimist, at times, it was a struggle to kind of see through it all. And so, yeah, I mean, right now I would say like the major difference of my business is focus. I was one of those shiny object guys that would always chase, the next partnership, chase the next facility, chase the next program, whatever it might be. I would never met a bad idea in business. And I was just trying to do too many things. My business was just very disjointed. I had a rental business. I had a pretty much physical therapy business. I had too many things going on all at once. I was still training pro athletes. So it was like, now I have focus. I focus on my main location, obviously, is the main thing. And my second location is able to thrive because of the stability of my main location. And I just have an amazing team. And the people that have been with me now, I've got, more than half my team has been with me for more than 3 or 4 years. So, I've been able to really build an amazing staff that understands and sees the vision. And that was something that I really struggled with early on too. Like you said, I do feel like a CEO today. Even 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have called myself a CEO, but I truly am in that seat now. And I think the biggest thing, was integrating everyone into more of having offsite meetings, being able to sit down and show the vision and have them be a part of the vision, and then have them grow the business in their own view, and having those offsite discussions, even having our Monday morning meetings. We never had that prior to joining the group, having a level 10 Monday meeting every Monday. Just had it at 11 o'clock. It's every Monday for the last, I don't know, probably like 4 years now, 5 years that we haven't missed that meeting. We do our quarterly offsites now. We have staff development, and we have projects that are built out of ideas that I didn't even come up with in the first place. So they're essentially coming up with the idea, creating, the plan for it and executing on it without my involvement. And, those are the types of things that I've always wanted to be a part of, but I wasn't able to get out of my own way. So I think that, now having the team really lead and having myself be in that driver's seat of making sure we're getting everything done, that we're dotting our T's, or dotting our I's, crossing our T's. And yeah, it's a completely different world than the chaos that was, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
TJ, I watched you as a young gym owner trying to make things work. I've seen you become a dad. I've seen you grow a monster business all throughout. And I can see the difference in you, not obviously in your financial results, right? But I just see a difference in you as a person, as a human being. And so what are the things that this journey of being, and not even the journey in SPF, just the journey as a business owner and getting through COVID, getting through plenty of relationships that, fell by the wayside. You've had some things fall through, some things were about to go through and they didn't go through. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
What is the difference about TJ Lopez, the person, today versus where you were, and what have you learned?
Well, yeah, I would say the biggest thing is the amount of emotion that, I was acting off of emotion mostly. I was constantly stressed. I was physically, you could just tell by, I've just recently lost about 30 pounds and I've been able to keep it off for the last year or so. And that was, directly correlated with the amount of stress in my life. And today I'm able to, really be way more measured in my decision making, share the responsibilities of the business with the team. And it's allowed me to, to live the life that every entrepreneur wants to live, and having the time freedom, having the flexibility to focus on what you want to focus on, have passion behind what you do, grow a business with some amazing people. And I was not there 5 or 6 years ago. I was extremely stressed out. I wasn't happy with my team. I wasn't happy with my own business. I felt like I was kind of a prisoner to my own creation. And, again, the CEO mastermind specifically, without that cadence of every 3 months getting in a room with some of the best business owners that I know, I wouldn't have gotten out of it. I wouldn't have. And now I'm able to provide not only that insight or, the coaching to another business owner, but I can say it by experience, and I can share my own growth, because like you said, I always prided myself on helping others in the room, even if I had a smaller business. There were times when I was helping people that had businesses 4 or 5 times the size of my own. But now that I'm able to grow, with the group and be in that upper tier of businesses, now not only can I help on the strategic side, but also on like the experience side of having gone through it. And again, just staying with it, staying in the pocket. Many times I was thinking about leaving and doing something else, but wouldn't even come across my mind today. And that's, that's the biggest change I would say for myself, in having that kind of like, having this new word that actually one of my good friends, the basketball coach that I just started my own podcast, and he used this word called solidity. And I was like, that's a great word. I was like, is that a real word? He goes, I don't know. I think I might have just made it up, but it actually is a real word. So I found more solidity in my life, where I have been able to, have conviction and stick with it, and not be like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? Like, I have confidence now that I hadn't had in the past. And I think that's waking up every day, having that, as opposed to waking up every day with worry and not knowing how the next month or the next week is going to go, is a really scary place to live. And it's not fun. And the way I'm wired, I'm very dumb. If we have a bad week, bad month, like, I would always kind of look to that. And now I'm able to kind of go through the ups and downs and kind of stay steady. And that's, for me, tremendous, because, I wouldn't be able to be the father that I am today or anything like that. So for sure, it's been a huge help.
So you mentioned, the CEO mastermind and getting together with a group 4 times a year. You're an OG in that group. You joined, I believe, when it's first started, I think in 2020 or 2019.
It was the day before COVID hit. It was, I believe that first meeting was March of 2020.
And then we had some virtual ones.
Yes. Or no, it might have actually been January 2020. It was the second meeting I think.
Yeah.
So
you have been in that group ever since. I don't believe you've ever missed a meeting, have you? That's really impressive for a 5-year run in a mastermind, 4 times a year. It's a big commitment. But you're the only one in the group. Everyone else has kind of said, "Oh, I got a wedding, or I'm having a kid." You did not miss any meeting. So tell us, you need a minute?
Sorry, kids. So we're doing our pickups.
No, all good. What does the group provide for you? What's the biggest thing that, hey, that's a big commitment, not only financially, but in time. Why do you stay a part of something like that? Whereas most masterminds, people are in and out in a couple of years. You've been in this 5 years plus, as many of the other guys have. Why is that so important to you?
Well, I would say it's two things. Number one is I don't trust myself. I don't trust that I will get this work done that I need to get done every quarter. The planning that goes into just building my document every quarter that I'm doing actually today, my whole day is just building the document and reflecting on the last 90 days and this year, and the last year. That's when most of the work is done. I usually show up to the meetings, at least recently. In the beginning, maybe not so much. But more recently, I show up to the meetings with my answer because I've already kind of done the work and I've already put in, the time to reflect. And, in years past, when I first started in CEO, I was getting the document done the day of, the morning of, or while we're getting started, I'm still finishing my document. And now I've done most of the work, even last week and the week before, and I'm able to then obviously really think about what I'm presenting in front of the group. So that amount of work, I don't know if I'd be able to do that on my own, is what I'm saying. I don't trust myself that I would get that done without having the accountability of the group. And second to that, maybe 1A to that, is the friendships that I've built in that group. The true, lifelong relationships and friendships that we built in that group I wouldn't have had that anywhere else either. We're all, rooting for each other every quarter, seeing, what we've gone through, seeing what we can do to, hey, what can we do to help TJ with this problem, or, Eric with that problem, or Devin, no matter who is in front of that room, everyone is trying to give their own insights and their own side of it, and having those outside eyes of the group, obviously including yourself and Joe, is invaluable. And, that's why I need to show up. I need to show up. And that if I don't show up there, I feel like I'm not showing up for myself and my team. So it's a big part of it, having that, if I hadn't signed it up in one word, it's accountability. That's it. Without the accountability of the group, my business wouldn't be where it is today, because I'm a very competitive person. So I can't show up and not have my stuff done. I can't show up and not at least hit 80% of my rocks, and sometimes that deadline is what you need. And it's hard to set that by yourself. It's hard to do it, for yourself and hold yourself to it.
TJ, what do you have to say to a gym owner that possibly was where you were at in 2019, struggling, stressed, and they're thinking about getting help with their business? They know they're getting help, but they're looking at the cost, they're looking at the time, and they're just like, I don't know if I can do this. What do you have to say to that gym owner that's home thinking, I can't afford it or I can't get help?
The way that I think about it even today is that the investment that I've made is essentially, I've invested in almost a pseudo boss. We're all strength coaches, personal trainers, former athletes, whatever we might be. It's really hard to hold yourself accountable. So if you're not going to invest in someone to hold you accountable and at least show you the path, then it's going to be really hard to get there by yourself. So yeah, the finances were really tough in the beginning. It was a large portion of my revenue was going to SPI and then CEO. there was probably a time, even while I was doing it, that I felt like I wasn't necessarily financially benefiting from. But the learning and the compounding effect of that learning is what today is a fraction, percentage wise, of what it was back then. And I think that you have to really look at it that way. And especially just like on a time commitment. I was on not only, so I haven't missed a CEO. I know I haven't made to a lot of calls recently, but like, I don't think I missed a call. And it was a weekly call. I don't think I missed a call for 2 years. I was on that Wednesday call every single Wednesday for 2 straight years. And the only times I ever missed was like my kid was in the hospital or something like that. Like it was not happening. Like, it was a part of my day. And it was because it was so important. And you have to treat it that way. Right. And it's one of those things, like when you pay attention. We say that to our clients all the time. And we also are asking our clients to hire coaches. If you as a business owner and a coach yourself don't understand the value of hiring a coach, then it's hard to be somebody in that position for someone else too. And, the reason why I'm still here today is because I'm still getting results. I'm still growing my business. And again, we're talking about 6 years or more. Actually, no, 2018, it's almost 8 years. Yeah, somebody that's, maybe the revenue isn't where they think it needs to be or where it has to be to make that investment. I would highly recommend getting started, because that investment will return if you put the work in. It guaranteed you will see a return on that investment. But I do see some people that put investment in, not just this group and other groups, and they don't put the work in. They don't put the action behind it. I mean, that's the only time that I would say, if anybody has not gotten the result, it's because they're not putting in the work. And that's, I'm telling you, what I've learned in this group, and not only from Vince, but the people that are inside of the group, and just the gratitude and how gracious people are to share ideas, share full marketing, like just download and just change out the facility name to your facility. I mean, there's certain things that are just so plug and play that, that will change your business. And again, we might all have the right ideas, and we might all know what we need to do, but we need somebody to hold us accountable. And just like everybody knows that how to lose weight, move more, eat less, right? Like, it's pretty simple, but you need a coach. You need a coach to hold your hand and to at least like give you for us, it's like our first time that we kind of sat down, it was like, you're giving me permission to do things I already knew I should have been doing. And, sometimes you need that. You need that little bit of a push, but there's not a better community out there than SPF and, the CEO groups. Not a better community in fitness.
Awesome. Well, this was exactly what I was expecting from someone like yourself to come on. And obviously this is a podcast of you telling your SPF story, but really it turned into you spitting a ton of really good knowledge and said I have a whole page of notes down here of things I want to kind of reiterate to my audience of the things that you mentioned and said. But the big one was emotional resilience, right? You have learned that, and I've worked with you on that. I remember a lot of conversations we had, especially during COVID. But I think also too, like getting in front of a room with your numbers and having to display everything about your business and to keep yourself cool, while you're doing that, especially if it's not exactly looking great and everyone else is looking pretty good. It's like, it's a hard thing to do. So you've done a beautiful job with that. You got a great family. You're a dad. You're an involved dad. I see with your kids. You came and saw my man Joey had a jiu-jitsu tournament on Long Island. You came and
That's right, baby.
And you came and surprised him and saw him get submitted in about 15 seconds. Although it's funny that kid is like, the kid that he lost to is like, he travels the world doing jiu-jitsu. He like couldn't have pulled a tougher opponent than when you saw it.
Yeah, I hope my kids get into it too. I love that.
It's great. It's really awesome. But you're just a stand-up dude, TJ. I appreciate you. Very proud of you for all you've accomplished and all you continue to accomplish and all the people that you're helping along the way. So, TJ, great job. Thanks so much. Where can people get in touch with you?
Thank you.
I bet you there's people that would want to reach out. I know you're busy. You don't have a lot of spare time, but
yeah, I would say
what's the Instagram or whatever?
Number one, Coach TJ Lopez on Instagram. That's probably the best way. Maybe follow some of my stuff. AMP_athlete on Instagram for my athlete business. AMP_personal training for our adult program. And you can reach out to me, TJ Lopez at ampathletes.com. That's my email. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help, and open invitation to everybody that's in that SPF group as well. Had a lot of really good conversations over the couple of years. I've been able to get up on stage and share some of my stories, share some lessons that I've learned. And I always appreciate that. It's always something that I love, doing is doing my best to kind of give back to the community that's given me so much.
Awesome. Great episode, TJ. Thanks so much.
Thanks.